I was wiping down the counter at the feed store when I heard about the billionaire's bet. $1 million to anyone who could tame his wild dog, a beast so fierce it had sent trainers to the ER. Out in the dusty hills of northern Oklahoma, at Crestwood Canine Ranch, that dog, Shadow, was a legend, untouchable, unbreakable, and tied to a past no one could crack. But it was a scrappy little girl named Lila, barely 11, living on the streets, who overheard the challenge and decided she'd be the one to reach him, not for the money, but for something deeper. Something I saw unfold into a story that still gives me chills. I'm Tom Harlan, 42, running Harlan's Feed in Tack and Dustin, a small town where folks know your name and your dogs too. My store's a hub for ranchers, and I've got a front row seat to the gossip, from crop yields to who's feuding over fence lines. Crestwood Ranch, owned by Elias Caldwell, a tech tycoon turned recluse, sits just outside town, a sprawling spread of kennels where dogs are bred like champions. Elias, pushing 70, is a mystery, gruff, silver-haired, rarely seen without a coat, even in summer. His dogs are his world, especially Shadow, a massive Belgian Malinois with eyes like coal and a growl that'd make your spine rattle. Shadow wasn't just tough, he was a storm, lunging at anyone who got close, leaving 3 trainers scarred and 1 with a busted wrist. Folks said Elias wouldn't give up on him, not because he was stubborn, but because of a faded photo in his office, a boy and a dog, labeled Me and Scout, 1963. Shadow was Scout's spitting image, a link to a kid Elias used to be, before the world hardened him. When he announced the $1 million challenge, to make Shadow gentle, trusting, not just obedient, nobody laughed. It wasn't about cash, it was about saving a piece of his soul. Lila, though, she was the opposite of everything Elias was: small, silent, invisible. She'd been on Dustin streets for years, a ghost at 11, wiping windshields for change, sleeping under shop awnings. Her sneakers held together with duct tape. She didn't talk much, not because she was shy, but because nobody listened. I'd see her sometimes, slipping past my store with a plastic bottle of water. Her eyes sharp, like she saw more than she let on. She didn't know her folks, just fragments, a lullaby, a wool scarf, the smell of cedar. Hunger and cold were her normal. But when she overheard 2 truckers at the diner talking about Elias's bet, $1 million for that devil dog. It's a death wish. Something clicked. Lila didn't want the money. She wanted to meet Shadow, to reach a creature as alone as she was. That night, curled up behind the gas station, she didn't dream of dollars. She dreamed of a dog nobody else could touch. And it lit a fire in her that wouldn't quit. The challenge wasn't just Shadow's teeth, it was getting to him. Lila had no map, no phone, just the name Crestwood Ranch, and a hunch it was past the highways, where fields stretched wide. She set out at dawn, her hoodie damp from dew, walking miles through alleys, over tracks, into the countryside. Her legs ached, her lips cracked, and once she froze when a rattler slithered by, but she kept going, asking strangers for directions. Most shrugged or laughed. "You're chasing that dog, kid? Turn back." She didn't. By dusk, she reached the ranch's gate. Iron bars, cameras glaring, fields rolling out like a green sea. Her stomach growled, her feet bled through her shoes, but she touched the fence, whispering, "I'm here." She was a speck against the vastness, but she'd made it. Driven by a stubborn hope that Shadow needed someone like her, someone who knew what it was to be scared and still stand. Knocking on that gate was like shouting into a void. Nobody came. Lila waited, gripping the bars, her reflection a smudge in the metal. Hours passed before a guard, big guy named Hank, strolled up, sunglasses hiding his scowl. "What's a kid like you want?" he barked. Her voice was soft but firm. "I heard about Shadow. I want to try." He laughed harsh. "That dog will tear you apart. Beat it." She didn't move. That night, she slept by the gate, curled tight. Coyotes howling in the dark. Morning came, and she was still there. Hank tried again. "Go home, kid." She looked him dead in the eye. "Ain't got one." By day 3, whispers spread among the staff. The girl who wouldn't leave, a kennel worker, Miss Ellie, slipped her a muffin, saying nothing. Lila nodded, eating like it might vanish. On day 4, as the sun rose, she stood firm, hair a mess, shoes falling apart, but her gaze unyielding. A second guard, older, quieter, radioed in. "Boss, there's a kid here days now. Wants Shadow." A crackle. Then Elias's voice. "Bring her in 10. Lila didn't flinch, didn't smile. She just waited, steady as stone, ready for her shot. Meeting Elias was like facing a storm cloud in boots. He walked up, coat flapping, his frown deep enough to carve canyons. The billionaire hadn't done interviews in years, a man who'd built tech empires and now hid with his dogs. He sized her up, ragged clothes. Scrawny frame, but her eyes held his, unflinching. "Why are you here?" he asked, voice like gravel. Lila didn't waver. "Shadows alone. I know what that's like. I can stay with him." Elias's face didn't change, but something flickered, memory, maybe, or recognition. "He's dangerous," he warned. "I know," she said. "You think you can fix him?" She shook her head. "He don't need fixing. He needs someone to stay." The words landed like a quiet bomb. Elias stared past her, to the kennel where Shadow paced, then back. He pulled off his sunglasses, eyes raw. Like he saw something he'd forgotten. "Sunrise," he said. "One chance." Lila nodded. "No thanks, no fuss, like she'd been born for this." That morning, as dawn painted the hills gold, Lila stepped into the yard, the grass cold under her torn sneakers. My heart was pounding just hearing about it from Miss Ellie, who watched from the sidelines. Shadow's pin was rigged with a heavy tether, the kind you'd use for a bear, after he'd mauled the last trainer. Elias stood nearby, arms crossed, jaw tight, his silence louder than a shout. Handlers hovered, tense, one muttering, "She's gonna get hurt." When Shadow appeared, the air crackled. He was a force, black antin coat gleaming, muscles coiled, teeth bared in a low snarl. The handler clipped the tether, backed off fast, and Shadow lunged, chain rattling, dust flying. Lila didn't blink. She knelt, just out of reach, still as a statue, no commands, no tricks. Just presence. Shadow barked, a sound like thunder, then charged, the tether snapping taut. He paced, growled, eyes locked on her, but Lila stayed put, her gaze soft, not challenging, like she was giving him room to breathe. Minutes dragged, 10, 15, maybe more. Shadow's barks faded, his pacing slowed, but he was still a live wire, ready to snap. Lila didn't move. Hands on her knees, looking past him, calm as a pond. Handlers whispered, "Pull her out." Elias raised a hand, silencing them, his eyes glued to the scene. Then it happened. Shadow sat. Not obedient. Not trained, but curious, ears twitching, tail flicking once. Lila saw, but didn't react. Slowly, like she was moving through water, she pulled a half-eaten granola bar from her pocket, unwrapped it, and set it down, sliding back. Shadow's eyes darted. Food, girl food. He stood, took a step, chain clinking, then another, until he was inches from the bar, from her. No growl, no lunge. Just heavy breaths, his nose twitching. Lila lowered her eyes, whispering, "It's okay. I ain't here to hurt you." Her voice, soft as a breeze, hit something in Shadow, a memory. A warmth buried under years of fear. He leaned down, took the bar, and sat beside her, his flank brushing her arm, like he'd found a safe place at last. The yard went silent. Like the world held its breath. Elias stepped forward, boots crunching, his face unreadable but his eyes wet. Handlers stared, jaws slack. "Miss Ellie told me later she forgot to breathe. You did it." Elias said, voice low, almost a whisper. "Nobody's gotten close. You won." Lila stood, brushing dirt off, Shadow leaning against her like a guard. "Don't want the money," she said, calm as ever. Elias raised an eyebrow, waiting. "Want a room. A bed I won't lose. Food, twice a day. And school. I want to learn." Her words were steady, but her eyes flickered, a crack in her armor. A kid who'd never dared ask for anything. Elias looked at Shadow, now watching him, not with fear but with trust, then back at Lila. "That's it?" he asked. She nodded. He exhaled. Like a weight lifted. "You'll stay in the main house. Room's yours. Eat with me. School starts Monday." Lila didn't cry, but her shoulders eased, like she'd been carrying the world and finally set it down. "Thank you," she said, simple, real. Elias put a hand on her shoulder, softer than anyone expected. "You didn't just save him," he murmured. "You saved me too." That night, Lila slept in a bed, clean sheets, lavender scent, a pillow like a cloud. Shadow curled up outside her door, ears twitching, guarding her like she was his pack. Across the hall, Elias sat with that old photo, him and Scout, whispering. She didn't fix him. She showed him he was whole. By week's end, Lila was in school, her backpack new. The billionaire who opened his home. Miss Vera at the diner said it best. Money don't fix broken. Trust does. Lila and Shadow became a symbol, not of $1,000,000, but of what happens when someone sees you, really sees you, and stays. I watched it unfold from my store, hearing bits from Ellie, seeing Lila walk past one day. Head.